Now we'll look at training leaders. There have been talks about the need to train leaders to take Nigeria to the next level. And an organization is part of this and is saying that there's going to be an emerging leaders conference. And that's talking about the Guardians of the Nation International, that's GOTNI. We have in our Abuja studios the president of GOTNI, Mr. Linus Okorie. Mr. Linus, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, there's been talks over the years about the need to build leaders that indeed would contribute positively to the growth of Nigeria in every sphere. Now, tell us about this Emerging Leaders Conference.
It will interest you to know that 21 years, we have been in the business of building the next generation of leaders. And so one of our major brands out of the 15 brands that we have is Guardians of the Nation International brand called the Emerging Leaders Conference. The Emerging Leaders Conference is a gathering of 1,000 of the very best of young Nigerians from all sectors of the economy. I'm talking about young people who are thinking about making a difference for our country, young CEOs, young entrepreneurs, change makers. I'm talking about young people in politics and governance, young people in the different segments of the economy who say, you know what, we love this country and we would want to build our leadership skills so that when the time comes, we will provide service to our nation. We will make our country work. And so this is like a gathering where you have peer review mechanism, where young people are thinking Nigeria. We want to rethink Nigeria, and we want to see how we can play our role in order to make sure that in all the sectors we are playing, whether it's in business, whether it's in enterprise, whether it's in the public sector, we would have real learning for leadership development for ourselves so that we can continue to make Nigeria work. That's what Emerging Leaders Conference, literally it's about. You can say it's a younger version of the Economic Summit.
Would I be right to say that you're probably hoping that one of these people whom you are training now will one day be the president of Nigeria, and there's no reason for youth, well, not youth, young people, not to be part of governance right now?
The truth of the matter is that all over the world, the business of leadership development is at the center of policies of nations. In fact, there's what we call the race of nations. Countries like Singapore, who got it right from the beginning. Exactly when Lee Kuan Yew came on board as a very young man in this country, he dreamt of a big nation. He wanted to create a nation with big vision, and he said the first thing he will do will be human capital. And then he focused on young people and began to teach them the meaning of leadership. He taught them the meaning of vision, how to have integrity and honor. He taught them the can-do spirit. He taught them service. And those young people grew with an understanding that they could one day become key leaders in their countries. And that's how, when the time came, within 10 years, they were able to transform their economies, because that was the focus of the entire thing. Leadership development is so key because you don't know who is going to be the future governor of a state. You don't know who's going to be the future governor, president of a country. You don't know who's going to own a big company that would have 1,000 people. And so if there's deficit of leadership capital, then we cannot have a state that will progress. We cannot have institutions that will make progress, because everything rises and falls on leadership. And even United Arab Emirates, that saw that experience, went to study the history of Singapore, and they decided to do the same thing with United Arab Emirates. That's why I could see one man, Ahmad Toum, could convert a desert into a seaport. I mean, people who can think about things that do not exist and make it happen. These are leadership experts that we want to create for our own country. And I think it's the most important need for the now.
Yeah, now, some people will say, indeed, it's important to ensure that the youth gets, on the right path, especially in the light of where you see that the channel some youths channel their energy in negative areas. Your organization is into training. What kind of training do you give these young leaders?
In my thinking, this conference is a little bit advanced. It's not just youth. When we're talking about young people, what we are referring now, is the young professionals, young doctors, young engineers, young people who are already owning their businesses in the different segments of the economy, who literally would want to intensify the effort of taking their businesses or their organizations to the next level. That's why in this Emerging Leaders Conference, we're going to have 3 summits within the conference. One will be the Enterprise Summit or Entrepreneurship Summit, where we'll be dealing with what are the global trends at the moment that can enable young people lead in very inspiring and innovative ways. And at the end of the day, they can build businesses that are sustainable, that have core leadership values like vision, like ability to think into the future, like ability to work with people, to work with their teams, to be able to get results, ability to even present themselves or their business ideas in ways that are unimaginable. These are the kinds of things that we'll be dealing at the Entrepreneurship Summit within the conference. And then we also have the politics and the governance and social change segment of the conference. And this will be dealing with issues about politics. How can young people be involved in political process such that even when they are already in governance, in National Assembly, or they are in state of assemblies and everything, they'll be different, because young people can bring their energies to those institutions, as well as quality, integrity, and quality service mentality. And these things are created, and these are the kind of things that we want to make sure that happens at the conference, because once we have a grooming process that is solid, that then we can begin to sustain governance and politics in our country. Because if we don't have people with honor and integrity occupy public positions,